Good afternoon and welcome to this planning committee meeting. We are having some technical issues here, but we're here now anyway. So welcome, and the committee is joined by officers from Democratic Services, Legal Services and the Planning Division. I'm going to call roll call. It would normally be by alphabetical order, but I'm going to do it as they appear on my screen. It's easier that way. So, Councillor Allen, could you just say you're present here because I can see you? Would you say present?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Present.
Councillor Sweatman.
Present.
Councillor Pulfer.
Present.
Councillor McNaughton.
Present.
Councillor Cartwright.
Present.
Councillor Eggleston.
Present.
Councillor Coote. No, you are muted, but I did see your mouth move. Councillor DeBell.
Present.
Councillor Cogunner-White will be joining us. She's just texted me saying she's sprinting through the to her house at this point in time, so we'll get to that one. I'm going to call on our legal officer, Jen Bell, to give an explanation of the meeting while we're in virtual and not in real life. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. In accordance with regulations made by the government at the start of this pandemic, this meeting of the Planning Committee is being held virtually via remote video link. The usual procedure rules for debates apply. Members are in control of their microphone and will be called to speak by the Chairman at his discretion. The vote on items 6 to 10 on the agenda will be by named vote, which I will conduct, and members should use the raised hand function to approve the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you. The public speaking procedure is when you are called upon to speak on your item, can you unmute and put your video camera on? You will have 3 minutes, and after 2.5 minutes, you will get a notification, probably from myself, that you've only got 30 seconds left. And once you've spoken on your item, can you then mute yourself and switch your video off, please, because we are beginning to get some members of the public, unfortunately, who try and go on beyond and trying to influence the committee once they've you've had their 3 minutes. So item 2 is to receive apologies from absence, and unfortunately we still have Councillor Neville Walker, and we wish him well and hope he gets his operation very soon. Item 3 is to receive declaration of interest from any members in respect on the matter of this agenda. Now, members, I have been asked, I've been asked to, when you declare your interest, to say what the interest actually is, personal, prejudicial, or whatever, and on what item, because people are saying they've got an interest, but they're not telling the for public clarification what type of interest. So I'm going to start the ball rolling. So on item 10, I actually have an interest when I was in the cabinet 6 years ago, when we decided to dispose of the land at Blackwell Farm Road. As I left the cabinet, sort of coming up for 2 years ago, I've had no say in the matter of what's happening on this site, who's got the site, and whatever. So it's just a personal interest, purely because of my involvement in the cabinet. Anybody else got I've got Councillor Eggleston.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a personal interest in agenda item number 7, Fairfield Recreation Ground, as I'm a member of Burgess Hill Town Council.
Thank you. And just to let everybody know, Councillor Cogunner-White has now joined us. Thank you. Councillor McNaughton.
Yes, thank you, Gary. I suppose I should declare the same interest in item 10, Blackwell Farm, because I have been involved in it as the cabinet member. I would need clarification whether that is a prejudicial interest. I have no influence over the RSL, but
How involved? What have you done recently that you'd feel could be seen as prejudicial?
Yes, I'm trying to think. I think I could have actually agreed the funding for it. So I think I probably shouldn't take part in that one.
Yeah, I think to be
Okay.
safe to be sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I did sign off the money for the purchase of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That is a prejudicial interest, so I won't be involved.
Okay. That's just to be safe. Councillor McNaughton. Councillor DeBell.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm actually a councillor.
We know that.
Town council, and therefore I do have not a prejudicial, but I do have an interest in item 10. But I will say, and I am on the actual planning committee of East Grinstead Town Council. But I did make it clear to the town council that I reserve the right to change my opinion when attending any of these committees.
Would it be fair to say you have an open mind on this and you'll be willing to listen to everybody's point of view on this one?
I am indeed.
That's fine. Thank you very much. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Chair. I'm also a member of Burgess Hill Town Council, sit on the planning committee, so I'd better just declare an interest in item number 7 at Fairfield Rec.
Okie dokie.
But I'm open-minded.
And what about the, did you debate item 8, the Emperor Restaurant in Cypress Road?
I believe that one has come up, so I'd better declare an interest in that one as well.
Okay, and I take it, Councillor Eggleston, you're
I
going to
think
nod and
also
do the same?
Item 9.
Yeah,
Item 9 as well.
So 7, 8 and 9.
7, 8 and 9, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Is that the same for you, Councillor
Thank you.
Eggleston?
Chair, I'm not a member of the Burgess Hill Town Council's planning committee.
All right, fair enough then. Fair enough then. Councillor Cartwright.
Yes, a member of Burgess Hill Town Council, but not a member of the planning committee, and I'm the ward member for St Andrews, so I have an interest in 9.
Okie dokie, thank you. Councillor Pulfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a member of the Haywards Heath Town Council and the Planning Committee, and we would have discussed it, and I have an open mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McNaughton, you still your hand up, or is that? No, you haven't got your hand up. Okay, right. Okay then. Everybody else is happy with that one. Okay, and this should be fun. To confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of December, can I, if you can't find your hand function on this new thing, can we actually just raise your hand physically so I can see hands if you agree with the minutes? Yep. And that is a majority there. Yeah, that's everybody. Thank you. And Councillor Cogunner White has actually done it as well. Members from Democratic Services, can you use my electronic signature to sign off the minutes there, please? Item 5 is to consider any item the chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. So we now get to the substantive part, and we do have a public speaker. But before we do that, we'll take a presentation. It's on 2 to 6 the Broadway, Haywards Heath, West Sussex. And I think that's yours, Susan, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, all yours.
Right, so hopefully you can see the screen now. Can you see the?
Not yet.
Oh.
While you're doing that, members, can I draw your attention to the update sheet that was circulated earlier as well, please?
Right. Can you see the screen now? Oh.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
coming up
okay,
now.
so,
It's coming
yeah,
up now.
I
Yeah.
forgot to press share. Right. Okay, as you say, this application is for 2 to 6 Broadway in Haywards Heath. And before I start, just draw members' attention to the update sheet, and there is one item on that relates to this application. The application is for the demolition of the existing building and construction of a new commercial ground floor unit and 19 residential apartments above, with associated vehicle parking, landscaping, and retention of the existing access to the site. Right, turning to the site plan first. This obviously shows you the location, which is a quite prominent corner location on the corner of the Broadway, which is here, and Church Road, which is here. And then that's just an aerial view of the site. You can see it's near the quite busy junction. And the site is within the built-up area of Haywards Heath, and it's also within the defined secondary shopping frontage as set out in the district plan and the Haywards Heath neighbourhood plan. So this first slide shows the Broadway elevation, and the shop entrances would be located on this elevation. And then this shows the Church Road elevation and the entrance to the flats. You can see from the drawings, due to difference in site levels, the building would appear as 5-storey on the Broadway and 4 stories on the Church Road elevation. The design is contemporary, with a mansard roof and recessed Juliet balconies. And then the proposed materials would be a red-brown brick for the elevations, metal seam standing to the mansard roof, and aluminium framed windows. The next slide just shows you the Church Road elevation with the entrance to the flats there, and this would be the view looking down the Broadway. Right, this next slide shows the 2 street scenes. This again is from the Broadway, and you can see the adjacent 4-storey Chelsea house. And then on the Church Road elevation behind, you've got quite a large gap, which you have got a car park there. And then the nearest property is the block of retirement flats known as Pentland Lodge. And this just gives you an illustration of the corner feature and elevation. I mean, this was one of the criticisms of the original submission, that the corner elevation, the design panel, and both your urban designer felt that it was underplayed. So following negotiations, they have added this feature with windows at 2nd, 3rd and 4th level with the standing seam frame. This shows the ground floor plan and the 2 entrances to the retail, or either A1 to A5 use. I don't think at the moment there is an end user. And this is the 1st floor again with the flat entrance. And this shows just an indication of the flat layouts. There would be 3 parking spaces using the existing access from Church Road, and one of which would be wheelchair accessible. And then there would be landscaping, which is proposed between Church Road and the building. Right, this next drawing, it just shows the layout of the 2nd floor and 3rd floor. And finishing just with some photographs of the site, although most members would be familiar with it, because obviously it's quite close to the offices. So it's vacant and boarded up at the moment, and that's the view from the corner, and that's along the Broadway. This is the view from the rear, and that just shows the existing parking area, the steps down onto the Broadway, and you've got the Star Inn in the background. So just to summarise, if you have got the report before you, but the principle of development is accepted as it is within the built-up area of Haywards Heath. And so the principle also of additional windfall housing is acceptable under policy DP6 of the district plan and policy H8 of the Haywards Heath neighbourhood plan. There's just a couple of issues that I wanted to highlight. In terms of design, the new adopted design guide does define this site as being within the urban area that's characterised as being fine grain with a potential for a modest or incremental change. And obviously the addition of 2 stories is more than an incremental change. But you'll see from your report that the urban designer is now satisfied with the application, and does point out that within the design guide, DG 13 states that the new development should normally provide strong street enclosures and continuous frontages that enable coherent building lines with the corners of buildings emphasised. And also principle DG 39 of the design guide says that it's often appropriate to emphasise a junction and terminate a street axis. So we do think that it's justified to have the additional 2 stories in this location for those reasons. And then following amendments to the design, which included the setting back of the mansard roof and changes to the treatment of the corner, which I outlined earlier on, that the design and the scale are appropriate and acceptable in this location. And the other issue I just wanted to highlight is obviously looking at the housing. In accordance with DP 31, there'd normally be a requirement for 30% of the units to be affordable. In this case, the applicants did submit a viability appraisal with the application to support their position that the scheme couldn't provide any affordable housing and be viable. And we did have this appraisal assessed by an independent firm of valuers, and they concluded the same, that the development could not support the required affordable housing from viability and deliverability perspective. And so while the conclusions of the assessment are agreed, you'll see that from the recommendation there would be a viability review required in the future, and that would be secured under the Section 1 agreement. That's all I have to say, and so, as you say, as of before you is the recommendation for approval. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Susan. If you can bring us back out of this, please. Right, we do have a public speaker, so can I call on Andrew Somerville to switch on his video? Wherever he is.
Yes.
Oh, no, I can hear you as well.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, right. Thank you. Your 3 minutes will start once you start speaking. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, councillors, for the opportunity to address you this afternoon, to be able to commend the planning application and development proposed at 2 to 6 the Broadway, located in the centre of Haywards Heath. The development will replace an awkward and unattractive building with a scheme that will enhance and is fitting to its prominent location. The development has been through a rigorous design process with planning and design officers, as well as assessment by the design review panel. Comments of the design officer include that the building has a strong rhythm, crisp detailing, and responds to other frontages along the Broadway. The building's corner position provides justification for its additional height, which will only be slightly taller than the adjacent Chelsea house. Indeed, the Mid-Sussex Design Guide considers corner locations are often suitable for apartment buildings. Where additional height is appropriate, apartment buildings will be welcomed on town centre sites, nodal points, and on the junctions of major routes. The planning officer in her committee report states that the proposed design and scale of the development are considered acceptable and would not cause harm to the character and appearance of the area. But we would go further and consider the building will make a significant enhancement to the townscape quality and attractiveness of Haywards Heath. The development will help underpin the vitality of the town centre as well. There will be an active retail frontage at ground level with apartments above for people to live where services and facilities are most accessible. The development is also compatible with draft proposals in the Haywards Heath Town Centre Master Plan to help reduce the dominance of the gyratory and provide a better pedestrianised or shared space. Improvements to the southern end of the Broadway should provide an exciting new public space to the benefit of the town. Ahead of this, though, the proposed development will enhance the existing public realm on the corner, replacing the narrow and steep steps with a tiered landscaping scheme that will tie into the overall building design. Briefly on other matters.
30 seconds to go, and Mr. Somerville.
The financial position of the scheme has been rigorously tested by the council's own consultants in determining its own marginal viability as set out by the case officer. And the level of car parking on the site is agreed with the Highways Authority as appropriate to this most accessible location. Finally, to sum up, in accordance with the officer's report and recommendation, I again commend the scheme to you, recognising the many benefits it will provide to the town.
Could you conclude in one sentence, Mr. Somerville, please?
And would be pleased to welcome your support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You were doing that eventually, right? Now, can I ask you just to mute and switch your video off again, please? Thank you very much. Well, members, you've heard the speaker, you've heard the officer's recommendation and seen the presentation. Who wants to kick off, or are you happy with what you've heard and seen? Councillor Pulfer, as Haywards Heath member, thank you for speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would recommend this this development. Even when it was the business centre, for those who knew it, it was a very poor and old-fashioned building. So this is a very welcome development. The other thing which I might just comment on, though, I can't see what it sounds a bit trite, but the bin storage, because there's going to have to be bins for the retail, irrespective of what goes in there, and bins for the private occupants of the flats. And I would like to think that those are going to be tucked away somewhere and not in the front of the building. And I was also very pleased to see that they've offered and are going to sort out the steps to the side there, which will be a very, very welcome alteration. So on that basis, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Can I ask the officer to just put up or indicate where the bin storage is, and while you're doing it, Susan, could you show them where the cycle storage is as well, please?
Yeah. Right, can you see the screen? Yeah. So this is the ground floor, and the storage for the retail would be located here, and then the storage for the flats is located here. And you've actually, I did mention you've got cycle storage there as well. So it is all tucked away and located within areas that you wouldn't actually see.
Okay, you're happy with that, Councillor Paul? And it's got 3 EV points as well.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, what a welcome addition to that as well, Mr. Chairman. A little bit of forward thinking there by the developer, and a very nice addition. And thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Councillor Cartwright.
Yes, it looks very stylish and a great improvement of what's there already. The only thing that really concerns me is this is making no contribution at the moment to affordable housing. So I would hope that if that genuinely can't be done within the scheme, that they make a suitable contribution through Section 106.
Yeah, if you look at the recommendations, which when we get to it, there's a clause in there, it comes under the Section 106 legal agreement, that if they do make more money than they think they're going to make, then they have to make a contribution. Unfortunately, this is standard practice when they're taking on a really difficult site, that if there's contamination and such like, we do have this, and that's why we don't agree with what they say. We send it out to an independent person. If they agree with what the applicant has said, then who are we to argue with the independent person?
Indeed.
Right, thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak? Can I have a proposer? Councillor Pulfer, are you happy to propose that?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I'd be very pleased to propose that it's that we recommend it for. Sorry, I lost my. That we just agree for it. Yes.
Okay, and my vice chairman, you happy to? Yes, well done, thank you. Right, so you're going to be voting on 2 recommendations. Recommendation A, I won't read it all out because there's quite a lot, but it does do the gist of what I've just suggested about the completed to the Section 106 legal agreement. And recommendation B, if they haven't signed this by the 10th of March 2021, following the recommendation, and it's at the discretion of the Divisional Lead for Planning Economy. So I've got a proposal of Councillor. Oh, and obviously subject to the update sheet that you were all emailed earlier. Thank you. So, legal officer, can you call for a vote? Do a vote, please.
Yeah. So Allen.
Approved.
Councillor Cartwright.
Approved.
Councillor Coote,
You're muted. Councillor Cook, you're muted.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
thank you. Councillor de Bell,
For.
Councillor Eggleston,
For.
Councillor McNaughton,
For.
Chairman,
4.
Councillor Phillips,
For.
Councillor Pulfer,
For.
and Councillor Sweatman.
For.
Thank you. That's unanimous and carried.
Thank you. Thank you, members. We're going to item 7, which is the Fairfield Recreation Ground, Fairfield Road in Burgess Hill. It's DM 20 4096. And I think this is it Mr. King? Are you doing this one?
Yeah, that's right, Chairman. I'll do this one briefly.
Thank you. Oh, can I, before you do, Mr. King, can I just remind members the reason why this is here is that Mid Sussex District Council actually own the land. Otherwise, it would have been a delegated approval. Thank you, Mr. King.
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. There's no updates on this one. So as you say, the application is before committee because it's on district council land, and the application is actually made by the town council. So just to briefly run through the proposal. So application seeks planning permission for the construction of a tank rink and 2 benches at the Fairfield Recreation Ground in Burgess Hill. So this is the site of the application ground. So this is the recreation ground to the north, east and west of the site. Immediately to the south, you've got an existing multi-use games area and then a community building. The tank rink is proposed to be located to the north of the existing multi-use games area. Measures 22 by 18 meters. The details of materials, etc., are on page 65 of the committee report, and that's just it in a bit more detail. So that's the proposed rink, and the benches located to the west of the site. Sure, members are very familiar, but these are just some photos taken of the application site. So this is the area where the proposed rink is to be located. So as I say, just immediately north of this existing multi-use games area. So you can see that that's hard standing and fenced off. The issues are set out in the committee report on page 67. Consider that this is an entirely appropriate use for the site, and it's therefore recommended for approval, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. King. I think this is a welcome addition to the district, particularly Burgess Hill, where I know a lot of people are waiting for this to be built. Does anybody wish to speak, or do I have a proposal and a seconder on
If
this?
not, Chairman, I propose.
I've already, you're too late, Councillor Cook. Are you wanting to speak, Councillor Sweatman, or are you seconding?
Well, I was going to propose this for approval, Chairman. But
I would say I better let Councillor Eggleston, as he is Burgess
whatever.
Hill,
I'm
but
quite happy to second.
you could be second. Right. Jen, could we have a vote now, please? The motion is recommended for planning permission be approved subject to conditions outlined in Appendix A.
I won't speak then.
Councillor Allen.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Cartwright.
For.
Still don't have Councillor Cogan or White, do we? Councillor Coote.
For.
Councillor de Bell.
For.
Councillor Eggleston.
For.
Councillor McNaughton.
For.
Chairman.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
For.
Councillor Pulfer.
For.
Councillor Sweatman.
For.
And unanimous and carried again.
Thank you, members. We're going to move now to item 8. This is the Emperor Restaurant, 1 Cypress Road, Burgess Hill. West Sussex, and it's DM 202740. We've already given permission for this site. This is just a slight amendment to it. So can I have a presentation from Joseph Swift, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to take members over the update sheet. We have a couple updates for this application. Contaminated Land have confirmed they have no further comments, provided the contamination condition is attached, and that is attached. It's condition 8 on page 89. We also had a comment from Mid Sussex Community Leisure Officer, which is just confirming that the contributions is for Sydney West and or the redevelopment of the former Royal British Legion. And this is updated within the report on page 86. And finally, condition 17 has been updated to be carried out in accordance with the drainage details already approved. Stop them from having to resubmit the same details as it's already been approved for this site. The application is seeking amendments to application DM17. It is seeking to redistribute the proportion of the commercial floor space while retaining the 10 flats. The application site is shown here outlined in red. You have the Orion Cinema to the south of the site, and the other 3 sides of the site are the car park in Cypress Road. It's designated as being in the built-up area boundaries of Burgess Hill. Just for context, we have the existing elevations of the building. It was previously the Emperor Restaurant, which was a flat roof design with a small pod of staff accommodation on the first floor. The existing building is not considered to be of any particular architectural merit, and its demolition is not being resisted in this application or the previous. Here we have the proposed elevations. They are almost identical to the previous approval. The only changes is the dormer windows on the east and west elevations, as I'm identifying with my mouse, are slightly larger than previously approved. And we have the addition of 2 windows to the southern elevation. Just for context, for members, this is what the previous approval is, which is this is the northern elevation. This will remain unchanged from what's previously approved. And just to show one of the side elevations, you can see the dormers are slightly smaller. However, the ground floor and the second floor are remaining the same as previously approved. The change to the first floor is shown in yellow here. Is to include an area of 156 square meters of additional commercial floor space, and the third floor is being changed, which was previously 2 very large 3-bedroom flats. It's now gone into 4 2-bed flats instead. So the proposal will still be providing 10 residential flats, all of which comply with the National Dwelling Space Standards, and together with some additional commercial floor space than previously approved. We have some photos of the site. Just so you're aware that the previous approval has commenced on site and the existing building has already been demolished. The first photo here is looking across the site, and you can see the Orion Cinema in the background. The second photo here is looking from the car park east towards the site. And the final photo we have here is looking south towards the site. The proposal is within Burgess Hill, within a sustainable location, and will provide a mix of residential and commercial floor space while providing contributions towards community facilities and supporting the regeneration of Burgess Hill Town Centre. The minor changes to the design are considered acceptable with no objection from the observant designer. The proposal is considered acceptable in regards to highways, neighbouring amenity, drainage, contamination and the Ashdown Forest. and it is recommended that planning permission is granted subject to the conditions set out in Appendix A and the completion of the Section 106 agreement. If the legal agreement has not been completed by the 21st of March 2021, it is recommended that permission be refused at the discretion of the Divisional Lead for Planning and Economy for the following reason: the application fails to comply with policies DP20 and DP31 of the Mid-Sussex District Plan in respect of the infrastructure required to serve the development. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. At least I haven't got to read out the recommendation. You just done it for me. Thank you. Members, does anybody wish to debate this? Or are you happy with what it is? I'm really pleased the fact that we've got smaller flats. Councillor Eggleston, as your ward councillor.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, I mean, this is a variation to an existing approval, and I would recommend approval of the application.
Very good. Okay, Councillor Pulfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, we don't have to concern ourselves with electrical charging points. I'm sure Mid-Sussex will be putting a point in very shortly in the car park there. Two questions, which is quite trite, but about the bin storage, because it's going to be quite nice around there soon, and we won't want bins outside, I wouldn't think. And was the size of the rooms and the window size resolved? Because I've seen it's brought up in the report, but I haven't seen that it's been resolved. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think Mr. Swift would answer that, but I did think he mentioned that they all comply with room size standards.
Yeah,
national standards.
Yeah, there was an issue with the plans that they didn't quite match, and the amended plans were submitted to address the issue raised by the urban designer on the window sizes. That has been addressed, and I didn't put a plan up of the ground floor, but there is a bin store included which will be enclosed on the ground floor that is controlled by condition as well. So it won't be on the street frontage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, because that's going to be sort of separate ones for the flats and separate ones for the restaurant.
I don't think it's going to be a restaurant. It's a commercial business. They don't know what's going to go in there.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was going to be the Emperor restaurant. We're going back in there. I stand corrected.
Is that correct, Mr. Smith? Is it Emperor or just a commercial enterprise?
It's just commercial. We don't have details of who's going in there at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman, do you wish to second this?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay, we've had a proposal from Councillor Eggleston and a seconder from my Vice Chairman. You've had the recommendations from Mr. Swift, subject to the additional update. Jen, can you do the vote, please?
Councillor Allen.
For.
Councillor Cartwright.
For.
Councillor Cogunner-White. I can't see you.
For.
She's for. She is there now.
Have you been here for the entire item?
Yeah, the entire meeting since the 4 o'clock.
And you've been, okay. You said 4?
She did.
Yeah.
I did.
Councillor Coote.
For.
Councillor DeBell.
For.
Councillor Eggleston.
For.
Councillor McNaughton.
For.
Chairman.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
For.
Councillor Pulfer.
For.
And Councillor Sweatman.
For.
Unanimous and carried.
Thank you, members. Now move to item 9, eagerly awaited, I hasten to add. Oat Hall Farm, Janes Lane, Burgess Hill, West Sussex. This is DM 20 3780. And I think this is yours again, Joe.
Yep, thank you, Chairman. We have a couple of updates as well on this one. There's a letter from Councillor Hillier in support of the application. As this has been sent round to members, I won't go through all of those points on there. And also just to add the Burgess Hill Town Council comments to page 108, which recommends approval of the proposal. The application seeks planning permission for the erection of a farm shop cafe and tea room and car park at Oat Hall Farm. The application site is shown on the plan here, identified in red, with other land owned by the applicant in blue. The site is within the countryside, and Lewes District Council runs along the east and northern boundaries of the site. It's also within the setting of a Grade 1 listed building, which is to the north of the site, which is Great Oat Hall. And that listed building is within Lewes District Council district. As you can see from the aerial photo attached, it is considered to be an infill plot between the dwellings on Janes Lane and the existing agricultural buildings, a number of which are in commercial use to the east. Here we have the block plan showing the layout. The farm shop and cafe is to be located to the north of the site, with the access off of the existing private road. There's an existing opening here, which they will utilise, with a car park to the front. Both West Sussex highways and East Sussex highways have raised no objection from a highways ground to the proposal. This is just setting out how the internal layout for the proposal is going to work, with a area designated as the farm shop and a section for the tea room, with a kitchen and a delivery and collection area. Here we have the proposed east elevation and the proposed south elevation, just for context, and the west and north elevations. The proposal has taken on a traditional agricultural appearance, with timber-clad walls and a corrugated roof. Although the site is an undeveloped field, a section of this will remain, and as previously stated, it is considered as infill as it's closely related to the agricultural buildings to the east. This is identified here on the section plan. You can see the section through the site showing the agricultural buildings, and the other section here you can see the listed farmhouse as well. The Conservation Officer has raised less than substantial harm to the setting of the listed building towards the lower and mid-range of the scale. We have some photos of the site for members. The first photo here is looking north. This is where the proposed access is coming through, where the farm shop will be located to the north of here. And this is looking towards the Grade 1 listed building. The second photo here is looking west towards the dwellings on Janes Lane. The third photo here is looking south down the access road. And the fourth photo on this is looking back up the access road. And as you can see, the agricultural buildings on the right-hand side. And these four photos are off of Janes Lane. This is looking across with the dwelling again from on Janes Lane in the distance. This is looking across the site in the opposite direction. And you can see the access, the existing access to be utilised. And the final two photos are looking directly back across the site. And just to summarise, although less than substantial harm has been raised by the Conservation Officer and the proposal is not considered of a small scale as set out in DP 14, the proposal is considered to preserve the character of the countryside, being an infill plot and being of a design of an agricultural style, while supporting the rural economy with the provision of 25 full-time jobs, providing an outlet for local produce. The applicants have also set out they're looking to set up a Goodman's Foundation to promote education and training for young people, improve access to the Great Oat Hall, and will allow the proposal to be used for community events. As such, it is considered that the public benefits of the proposal outweigh the identified harm and is therefore recommended for approval in accordance with the conditions set out in Appendix A. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We do have two speakers. Can I ask, is it Carolina? Have I spelled that right? Pronounce that right? Carolina? Woman Irvin. And she's speaking in support of this. You will have three, if you put your, where are you? I can't see you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Oh, there you are. Can you put your video camera on, please? Have you got it? Thank you.
Yes, here we are.
Yeah, okay.
Hello.
You've got 3 minutes to start from the moment you start talking, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman and Councillors. I'm Carol Godman-Irvin, the applicant on behalf of Oat Hall Farm. The officer's report sets out the full details of the application proposal, including all the benefits of this farm shop brings. I'd like to thank them for their hard work and for their detailed report and presentation. Oat Hall is a family-run farm, beef and arable, which has been owned by the Godman family since the 16th century. The family responsible for building Great Oat Hall in 1530, the 1600 extension, and the latest addition in 1880, including the farm buildings and cottages and Little Oat Hall. The farm is currently run by myself and one other employee. My son Matthew is in line to take over the running of the farm and diversify businesses. We specialise in rearing pure Sussex cattle, sell privately to farm shops, local and London butchers. We've sought opportunities to diversify our farming operations since the mid-90s as conventional farm incomes decreased significantly. The traditional farm buildings were converted into business units known as Oat Hall Business Park. Oat Hall Farm would not have survived as a purely traditional run farm without having already diversified. The farm shop is now central to further diversification and is essential for financially future-proofing the farm now and into the next century. The public backing, including 53 letters of support outlined in the officer's report, demonstrates the community support for this rural project. Recent trends show that communities wish to shop locally and support smaller businesses. We've received hundreds of messages of support for both verbal and written from the local community. I'd like to take this opportunity to list some of the benefits this proposal delivers. The provision of sustainable, locally sourced products, including Oat Hall beef, lamb, pork and game reared on the farm. Packaging and energy will be environmentally sustainable. The creation of 25 jobs, staff hired locally, including some with learning difficulties. A focal community hub for people to meet, shop and talk. The creation of the Godman Foundation, which will promote education, training and mentoring of young people, including with disabilities, using profits from the new business. There will be improved access to the grounds of Great Oat Hall, a valued heritage asset. The provision of car park will assist with accessibility to the network of footpaths around the farm. The project will support rural diversification and the local economy, as encouraged by DEFRA and grants.
30 seconds, Mr.
I agree to all the proposed conditions suggested and again thank the planning officers for providing us with the opportunity to review these. I hope that this submission is helpful to your consideration of this matter and provides a central background to the proposal to the existing and future farm operation. My family and I would be most grateful if you would grant planning permission for this proposal today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Well practiced and well timed. Thank you. Can I ask you now to switch your microphone off and your video off now, please? I have another speaker, Robin Walker, who's speaking in support of this. Mr. Walker, there you are.
Good afternoon, councillors.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, you can start now when you want to.
Thank you for this opportunity to support this application. I'm speaking on behalf of users and residents of Theobald's Bridleway, which lies within walking distance to the north of Oat Hall Farm. As Mid-Sussex develops, and with significant growth being directed towards Burgess Hill, it is ever more important to ensure that the countryside is not only retained, but made as inviting and accessible as possible. We are, as a community, fortunate in having Theobald's Bridleway leading to the footpaths around Oat Hall Farm to enjoy year-round. And since the pandemic, it has become the go-to destination for many in northern Burgess Hill. The future residents in the Northern Arc will in due course discover the area as a complement to Beadlands Nature Reserve. How much more attractive, therefore, to be able to stop for a coffee and cake or a light lunch at the midpoint. At present, there are no places to stop for a break once you leave World's End, unless you go into Wivelsfield Village. And so this will be a popular destination and will encourage the good exercise habits developed by many during the past year to continue. The idea of complementing a coffee place with a farm shop is inspired. It will enable some high quality, healthy local food sourcing within walking distance for many in Burgess Hill. The availability of car parking means it also offers the option of farm source produce within quite a significant catchment area, as there is no other farm shop within several miles. A word about Great Oat Hall. As the committee knows, as Carol has just said, the Goodman family have managed and cared for the Oat Hall for the last 500 years, and protecting Oat Hall is therefore literally in their blood. The family open their doors and welcome the community, including holding garden events during the year, on any other year. Having this facility will help make these more popular and, as Carol has just said, help secure Great Oat Hall's future. Listed buildings are generally few and quite far between in the local area, and we're fortunate that 4 of them, Great Oat Hall, Wivelsfield Church, Theobald's Farm and Anti House, are all within walking distance of each other. The heritage value of each asset for the future is only part of its benefit. These places show the historic fabric of this part of Sussex.
30 seconds, Mr. Walker.
Thank you. But their value is a function of how many people visit them. This proposal, if accepted, will generate a centre of gravity for what we hope will be a well-used heritage walking route spanning both West and East Sussex, with the added benefit of a refreshment stop with the iconic view of Great Hall's chimneys as backdrop. I therefore support the proposal and consider it would enhance recreational exercise, food localisation and wider appreciation of this part of Sussex.
Thank you. Very well timed again. Thank you. Again, can I ask you to switch your video and microphone off, please? Well, members, this is probably one of the first times I've been sitting on a committee now for 18 odd years that we've never had a letter saying they didn't like it. There's only letters of support. I'm going to ask Councillor Cartwright as the local member if you wish to say anything.
Well, I obviously can't say anything apart from supporting it. It's a very good proposal. It doesn't conflict, as far as I can see, with any of the shops, whatever, within World's End. As said, it's near walks and the cafe will be very welcome. It's an outlet for local produce and very much in the trend of things, which is cutting down on travel and of goods and the green economy. It's providing more jobs. So it's ticks in pretty well every box. So very much in support of it.
And would you like to propose it if nobody else wishes to speak?
Very happy to.
Okay, Councillor Paul.
Second, Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Paulford, do you wish to say anything, or you're a bit slow to second it if you want to say something?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I think excellent proposal. In the documents we're presented with, just a little confirmation that there is comments about the footpath along the site that has all been satisfactorily resolved. It would be nice to think that the hedging would be kept as well and perhaps reinforced a little bit. And it may well be perhaps in the interest of the applicant to future-proof it for you-know-what.
Yes,
an electrical point, because it'll save digging up the car park. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Councillor Paulford. Councillor Coote will be seconding it. The applicant was listening to your comments, and they'll take on board that. So, the recommendation.
Could I make a comment?
Yes, go on, Councillor Coote.
Looking at some of those photographs, I think it might be a good idea if our planning committee could write to West Sussex and ask them to resurface the braking area, which is in red, because it looks extremely worn. And as it's now going to be a new, an increased entrance, that would be a good safety measure.
Yes, I think you've got Mr. Swift there. I'm sure in speaking to his colleagues, I'm sure a letter could be generated on our behalf.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So we've got a proposer and we have a seconder. The recommendation is it is recommended for plan permission to be approved subject to the conditions set out Appendix A. Jen, can you conduct a vote, please?
Yes, Councillor Allen.
For.
Councillor Cartwright.
For.
Councillor Cogunner-White.
For.
Councillor Coote.
For.
Councillor DeBell.
For.
Councillor Eggleston.
For.
Councillor McNaughton.
For.
Councillor Chairman.
For.
Councillor Phillips.
For.
Councillor Pulver.
For.
And Councillor Sweatman.
For.
And that's unanimous and carried.
Thank you, members. And this is where we have to reluctantly say goodbye to Councillor McNaughton and see you soon, as they say. You don't have to stay for the refusal because we have none. Okay. All right, thank you. Right, the next item is up in East Grinstead, a change of scenery to say. It is DM 20/1333. It's land at the junction of Blackwell Farm Road, Hoyt Road, East Grinstead, West Sussex. And I think this is one's yours, Andy, isn't it? Andy Watt?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman.
Go for it, as they say.
Right. The application is for the construction of 10 affordable dwellings and associated car parking, landscape, and the creation of a new access onto Blackwell Farm Road. Just draw members' attention to the update sheet, an additional comment from the Highway Authority, which details the traffic regulation order contribution and the parking details, and the consultation response from the council's ecological consultant, recommending a condition. 11 additional representations setting out in that update sheet, and then some amendments to the conditions section with regard to the boundary treatment condition 11, just to reflect the drainage recommendation, and a new condition in relation to the ecological comments. So the application site. The application site is located at the junction between Holt Road and Blackwell Farm Road, in the built-up area of East Grinstead. It's currently laid to grass with semi-mature trees sort of running along
We've not got
boundaries.
We're not sharing the screen, Mr. Watt.
Ooh.
We are now.
Sorry, yeah, thank you. So the application site is, you can just see here, is located on Holt Road and Blackwell Farm Road, and the tree boundary is located here and to the south. There are two-storey houses opposite, and three-storey flats to the north. You've got a cemetery on the western boundary, and then East Court, all the complex to the south on the opposite side of Holt Road. As set out in the planning history, members will be aware that the site was granted outline planning permission for 10 dwellings in March 2016. This included the layout indicatively shown here, with some houses along the southern end and then houses perpendicular to that, with two accesses, one centrally located and then another one to the north, just serving the two dwellings at the northernmost end, and then parking provision here, and then parking provision to the rear. It was noted at the time of that planning application that the site was subject to some constraints. So running across the southern part of the site was a gas main, and then shown in yellow here, just running across sort of two northern parts of the site diagonally, is a foul sewer, and effectively these constraints have guided the layout of this new scheme. So the proposal before members today is for full planning permission for 10 dwellings, and it's arranged in a similar kind of layout with houses along the southern end and then houses to the north as well. However, the northern access has been deleted from the scheme, and then the proposed access to the site is exactly the same location as it was before. So you've got sort of a fork coming off to a parking area to the south east of the site, just in front of the site, and then another between two other dwellings to the north, and then some further spaces for parking along sort of parallel with the road. So that's 22 spaces in total. In respect of the southern part of the site, plots 1 to 6, this will be arranged as 3 pairs of semi-detached buildings with dormers in the roof space, you can see here, and then there'll be some flat canopied entrances across the top. Materials will be sort of cream and buff coloured bricks with grey fibre cladding panels, so that will be sort of an area here. Timber doors here, and feature window surrounds in zinc, as it will be to the dormers as well, and then topped with a grey slate roof. And just to show the site in context, this particular part of the development, looking through the site from the south, you can just see how the land slightly slopes down, so the buildings respond to that change, and then bookended by the chimneys either end. And plots 1 and plot 6 will have their entrance doors to the side rather than to the front, where all the other front doors are to the others. And then just a typical elevation of plots 9 and 10 right in the far north of the site. There'll be 2 stories in height, again arranged as a pair of semi-detached properties with the same materials and styling throughout. And then just showing sort of a section through that plot, and then just the gap between plots 8 and 9, which is where the sewer is located. So that will be an area for parking, and then in context with the flats to the north. So some photos. The site looking to the northeast from the mini roundabout along Holt High Road, and also serving the cemetery. And this shows the semi-mature tree frontage back in July, which is to be retained as part of the development. This is looking to the north along Blackwell Farm Road from the triangular area of land along Holt High Road. And you can see that where the proposed access will be located in this area here. And then just looking at it from within the site, these are the Italian alder trees, and then these are the 2 horse chestnuts to be removed in order to make way for the access. And this is looking north within the site towards the flats adjoining the site. You can note the dense screening to the cemetery and the change of levels. And then just a closer view of the neighbouring flats, and then looking in a southerly direction through the site towards Holt High Road. So the main issues are as set out in the report, they being highways and parking, loss of open space and drainage. So you've got the Highway Authority comments set out in full within the report, and you can see that they raise no objection to the scheme on the grounds of parking and trip generation and to the visibility displays. The loss of the open space has been assessed as sort of previously in 2006, 2010, assessed as low quality and low value, and that the multifunctional green space can be found at East Court on the opposite side of the road. And therefore the loss of this area is deemed acceptable in policy terms. And then with respect to drainage, the site will have some attenuation tanks beneath the permeable paving, sort of just within the site entrance and at the southern parking area. So all the issues that are being raised now are still the same as when the council granted outline planning permission 4 years ago, or nearly 5 years ago. Although planning policies have changed since then, nothing has changed with regard to the principle of developing the site for residential use. The proposal is considered to meet a clear need for affordable housing in East Grinstead, and this will be secured via a legal agreement, and it also exceeds the local planning policy requirement. And your officers consider that significant weight should be attached to this need for housing and affordable housing, and accordingly the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Watt. Could we just go back to the committee? Thank you. Now, we do have a couple of speakers, but before we have a couple of speakers actually start to speak, I've asked Mr. King just to back up the words of Mr. Watts just said there, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, Mr. Watts, quite correct. The planning permission has previously been granted by the council for this use back in March 2016, and whilst that was, as has been said, under a different planning policy background, with the Mid-Sussex local plan being in place at that point in time, and now we have the Mid-Sussex district plan. All the issues, I think, that are before members are essentially the same, and clearly members have found that the development of this site is acceptable. The other point is probably also worth highlighting again, is on page 158 of the committee report, that whilst the site is currently in use as open space, it's not allocated as being open space in the development plan. And you'll see there at the bottom of page 158 that the council's leisure team have commented on the information in the application, and they're content that the land is surplus to requirements. So that is the view of your own leisure officers, and I think that the planning committee should give significant weight to the views of the leisure officers on that particular point. I think that's probably all I need to say at this point, Chairman.
All right, thank you. We do have 3 speakers. I have 2 ward councillors, but before I get to the ward councillors, Jonathan Moore, could you switch on your speaker and video, please? Wherever you are. Oh, right. Apparently submitted a video. So, members of Democratic Services, can we switch the video on for us, please? Here it comes. Yes, we can.
My name is Jonathan Moore, MH Architects. We are the agent acting on behalf of Guinness Homes for the application. Site layout. The proposals put forward are a result of extensive consultation with the local planning authority over an extensive period of both pre-application consultation and post-application negotiation to overcome the many issues and concerns raised by the statutory consultees. The site in its raw form presented many technical difficulties to overcome to enable a developable proposal to be put forward for planning. The site has many services crisscrossing the land, including stormwater and major foul drainage, which has resulted in defining the areas that could be developed to house the built forms. The layout presented to committee is development of the outline consent DM 15-1492, which was granted consent in March 2016. This gave consent for up to 10 dwellings with parking and access. The proposed layout takes into account the up-to-date detailed information relating to the underground services. The layout is an adaptation of the outline consent and takes on board the original intent from an urban design perspective by retaining a setback frontage to the site's public boundary with private amenity spaces set to the rear of the site. It also takes into account comprehensive comments and design advice provided by the council's own urban design officer. The layout presented is a continuation of the built form along Blackwell Farm Road and mimics the development to the northeast by continuing the residential form around the perimeter of the site, while still providing sufficient setbacks to address the notional building line. The existing mature tree screen to Blackwell Farm Road and Halty Road is also maintained. The proposed residential dwellings are of a scale and design that is considered to be wholly appropriate to their setting. They are designed to the latest nationally described space standards and are fully compliant with providing fuel-efficient homes for the future. The forms are presented by 2-storey dwellings where they sit adjacent to existing neighbours and 2.5 storeys where they front onto the main road. The forms are highly efficient in their layout and make use of roof space to accommodate the larger units without adding to the overall footprint of the dwellings. The architectural language is considered to be vernacular and familiar in its design and draws on good proportion and detail to provide an aesthetic that is of its time and place. Materials will be of high quality, traditional and robust, and will set the forms within their immediate setting. Policy compliant parking provision has been carefully designed to minimise its impact on the site and the immediate views of the public realm. Parking is broken up into smaller areas of both allocated and unallocated parking. Refuse collection will be on site and will allow collection vehicles to enter and leave in a forward direction. It is considered that this current application is a development of the outline approval granted in 2016. It represents the same aims and aspirations for delivering quality housing on a site that has been proved to be capable of accommodating the units proposed. We ask that through the extensive consultation that has taken place, that the scheme is acceptable to all involved and the committee look favourably on the application and grant consent. Thank you.
I would say thank you, but it's a video, so I can't. Right, I do have 2 ward councillors, Councillor Belsey and Councillor Bennett. I don't know who's going to go first. I can see Councillor Bennett, so I'll allow you to go first. Members will be aware that both ward councillors will not be subject to the 3 minutes, but they are aware that they don't want to talk forever. We do have other things to do. Thank you. Councillor Bennett, please, you're first.
Good afternoon, Chairman, officers, fellow councillors and members of the public that might be viewing this. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak as the local elected member, even though I'm not a member of this committee and I'm not able to vote. I'm speaking today on behalf of my residents, some of which were not able to register in time due to the change of registering process for online meetings. My residents are very unhappy about this development. They really value this area of open space. This pandemic has taught us so much about the need for open spaces, to be able to move around outside for our health and well-being and social distancing. It is not healthy to be cooped up and living on top of one another. This space is also held in high regard as it is located opposite the entrance to the East Court Estate and the lower land to the cemetery. It is an important part of the street scene. It is along the gateway into our town. At the moment, it complements its surroundings. The cemetery is getting close to capacity now, and so something more in keeping, like a rose garden of remembrance, I think would have been more welcomed by the community and residents, particularly a place where they could visit safely and reflect. My residents feel that they are having an important and valued green space taken from them at a time when they really need it the most. This is crucial as the way we move around outside has changed going into the future. My residents are struggling with vehicle movements along this no-through road, Blackwell Farm Road. This road is the access and exit for around 450 houses. It has a primary school located in the centre of it, and my post bag is continually full of frustrations with dangerous parking and gridlock motorists. I have regularly had seek help from parking enforcement officers, police and highways to try and alleviate the problem. The road is at capacity. I understand the frustrations of my residents, and I understand the difficulty for highways, as 10 dwellings is not enough to trip the intervention for highways. This is a road that was built many years ago, when there were less cars on the road, and it is very difficult for highways to improve it. So, Chairman and Committee, on behalf of my residents, I ask you to listen to their impassioned plea. They value this land. They need to be able to breathe and carry out their daily lives in a safe and healthy way. And finally, a plea from me. I fully appreciate the need for affordable housing. Many of my residents want a home for their children to live locally and stay in the town. But my ward of Ashplatts is taking the majority of affordable housing in the town. And I'd like to see this spread out fairly across the town to give residents, future residents, a choice as to where they can live. This pandemic has changed everything going into the future, and I do hope this will allow you to change your minds at this late stage. Thank you, Chairman, for giving me the time, and thank you, Committee.
Thank you. You're not subject to the normal rules. You can stay and watch the debate. Okay, Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
No problems.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak as a ward councillor on behalf of residents of Ashplatts Ward, within which is the proposed development. This land was sold to the Guinness Partnership in September 2019 by Mid Sussex, despite the fact that East Grinstead Town Council had approached the council to explore the possibility of them buying the land to use as a possible extension to the adjoining Mount Noddy Cemetery, which is nearing capacity. I've been advised by the town clerk that no reply was received at the time of their communication. Moving to the application under consideration today, firstly, I'm aware that a development had previously been given outline planning permission, but that was some time ago. And whilst I am keen that we have sufficient affordable housing in East Grinstead to meet demand, I will point out that we do currently have developments under construction in East Grinstead that I understand will provide at least affordable and social housing homes. I'd also point out that the East Grinstead Planning Committee, of which I am a member, have rejected the application before you today on 3 separate occasions. As you will have seen from the portal, there are many objections in respect of this application from really concerned local residents who give a wide range of valid reasons why this application should not be approved, or at the very least have requested that its decision be postponed until a valid and relevant traffic survey can be carried out. My inbox has also been inundated by residents concerned at highway issues, particularly pointing out that the traffic survey was conducted during the COVID epidemic and therefore does not relate to normal road traffic uses, to the loss of green space, as well as being really worried about health and safety issues. If I may, I will briefly address these concerns. Firstly, the loss of green space is a very significant issue for local residents who use this area to exercise, children to play and to walk their dogs, and weather permitting, it is used as a picnic area. and an area in which they can socialise. This is particularly relevant as a significant number of the homes along Blackwell Farm Road have little or no gardens, so this green space is vital to the well-being of the residents. It is an area where children can play safely without having to cross the busy main road, the A264 to East Court, the next nearest green space. Under the current COVID lockdown, the site provides a green space area that is vital to the mental well-being of local residents who are able to leave their homes for a walk to enjoy an open green space, which is in close proximity to where they live, without having to cross a major A road. With regard to traffic, which is high on the list of objections, as I have stated, this proposed development is on the junction of the main A264, which is used not only by cars, but vans and lorries, and the Blackwell Farm Road, which already has severe traffic problems, having cars parked on both sides of the road, as many properties in the road, many of which are flats and or masonettes, have no parking or garage space, therefore having to park on both sides along a significant length of the very busy Blackwell Farm Road. During busy periods, traffic can be seen backed up from Blackwell Green to as far as St John's Road and as far as Holt Rose to the other side. This in turn can produce tailbacks up the very narrow Blackwell Hollow as far as Checkermead Theatre, and frequently traffic is backed up Blackwell Farm Road to the primary school. The traffic survey is considered to have been incorrectly carried out during COVID-19 epidemic, when conditions continue to be impacted by a reduced amount of traffic using the road. This is to a large extent due to the fact that Blackwell Farm Primary School, about half a mile along Blackwell Farm Road, has not been allowed to provide full-time education to its pupils due to government imposing restrictions on schools during the past 12 months. The result of the survey, therefore, does not provide an accurate reflection of the number of cars that use the road on a daily basis under normal conditions when we are not in lockdown or having to follow government advice. For your information, Blackwell Primary School has significantly increased the number of pupils attending the school from its starting number, I'm told in the region of 200 pupils, increasing in the last 18 months to 345 pupils, with the likelihood of reaching its capacity of 420 pupils within the foreseeable future due to improvement in the school's popularity following its accommodation. The knock-on effect of this increase in number of pupils has seen, under normal conditions, a significantly increased amount of traffic using the road, with almost impossible parking conditions in order to pick up and drop off the children, which creates not only traffic, but safety issues for the children having to cross the busy road into school or into the vehicles. In addition, for your information, a proposed development of land for housing that is owned by the QVH would require access along the Blackwell Farm Road, which again would add to the already horrendously overcrowded busy road. To personally evidence the problem of the amount of traffic using Blackwell Farm Road, I am a governor at the school, so have first-hand knowledge of the horrendous traffic conditions that exist during normal circumstances along the road from as early as 7:30 in the morning, as the school has a very popular breakfast club, to after 4 p.m. when the school is closed, although with meetings and after-school activities, this time can be extended to coincide with normal busy traffic times. I should mention that there is a separate National Health Service run Children and Family Centre within the school site, with visitors having to also use Blackwell Farm Road to access the centre when COVID and lockdown regulations are not in place. With regard to traffic entering and exiting from the proposed development, a consultation paper has been sent to Mid-Sussex by Mid-Sussex District Council to 150 local residents, asking for their comments regarding the entry and exit. I understand that the consultation period has not yet ended, and the replies of the residents have therefore yet to be considered by Mid-Sussex District Council. The suggested entry-exit points with the accompanying double yellow lines will result in the loss of 9 parking spaces along Blackwell Farm Road. Apart from the traffic, there is the question of health and safety regarding children having to cross an ever increasingly busy road. There's also the question of severe air pollution that has been raised with a request that an air quality survey be performed in the area to determine the levels of particulate matter. The results of this survey is to be compared to government guidelines, which currently is exceeded by 10%, according to the Mid-Sussex District Council annual status report for air quality as at June 2020. There is a well-documented problem concerning air pollution in the town of East Grinstead, where traffic backs up along London Road, which is less than half a mile from Blackwell Farm Road. In conclusion, for the reasons stated by me and my fellow ward councillor, and in view of the numerous objections from really concerned residents, I would ask for the decision regarding this application be deferred until a proper traffic survey can be undertaken showing a normal road usage post the national COVID crisis, which report I would suggest will come to a very different conclusion. I would also suggest that this traffic survey should encompass not only this application, but also the proposed housing development on the QVH land, which would also entail Blackwell Farm Road being used by more traffic emanating from the even larger number of dwellings, which is already being voiced as a major concern by residents. A delay in the approval of the application.
Councillor Belsey, I don't wish to prolong it, but
it's my last sentence.
Your last sentence. Okay, go on then. Okay.
A delay in the approval of this application would only be temporary, but the knock-on effect if the proposed development goes ahead to residents would be permanent.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Belsey. I just thought you were getting into your second win there.
No. Thank you.
All right, you raised a couple of points there. I'm going to ask Mr. Watt to come back on one of them, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I mean, so, you know, dozens of residents have raised the concern about the highways reports being carried out during the COVID period. When the application was originally submitted, it was accompanied by a road safety audit, which was submitted as part of the previous application, and eventually it was deemed to be out of date, so a new one did have to be carried out, and unfortunately we are just in the situation that we are, and that has been carried out, and then the designer's response has been followed on from that, which has made some changes to the proposed access. This is really sort of a traffic regulation order for double yellow lines around the parking area within the visibility space, and that would be secured by the Section 106 legal agreement. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Bowser, could you just switch off your microphone, please? You still got that on, thank you. Well, members, before we start the debate, I'd just like to remind members that the principle for the loss of the open space and the principle for housing on this site was established by a previous planning permission on this site. I'm aware it's a very emotive site, so stand by for the debate. Councillor Sweatman is the town leader, and you are a member of my committee.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm afraid you're going to have to bear with me at the moment, because what the ward councillors have actually said, and quite rightly so, have already been said. So basically, while this, and I just want to point out before I go on, that the previous principle of development, although that's been established, because that was under different, the policies have changed now, that principle, as far as I could see, Mr. Watt might correct me, carries little weight.
Well, before you carry on, Mr. Sweatman, Councillor Sweatman, can I ask Mr. King, please? Because I don't, and that's not the information I was given, but I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think it's important for the members to understand what you've just said is right or wrong. So, Mr. King, then I'll go back to you, Mr. Councillor Sweatman.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just trying to find the where it's actually directly referenced in the committee report, but it's yeah, page 160. The outline middle of the page, where it refers to the outline planning permission being afforded limited weight as a material consideration. That's because, simply as a matter of fact, that permission has expired, and it was determined under a different planning policy background, i.e. the old Mid-Sussex local plan. But as I think, as I've mentioned previously, the issues that are to be considered are the same, and the policies in the district plan are very similar, really, and cover the same issues. So it is still relevant, I think, that this council has approved a development on the site in the past. And I think you have to look at, essentially, other than the planning policy, which is different, what has actually changed on the ground. Obviously, the site remains the same, the surroundings are the same, the position of East Court as an alternative area for open space is the same. Highway matters are going to be the same, and I think, as members know, that the test in the development plan and also in the National Planning Policy Framework refers to only resisting applications on highway grounds in relation to the impact on the network, if that impact will be severe. And I think where you've got a scheme which is only for 10 dwellings, as the Highway Authority have said and officers agree, the impact of the additional traffic of 10 units on the road network is not going to be severe. So I think we would really struggle to resist the application on highway matters. I think that covers it, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. King. Councillor Sweatman, that was a very valid point you made there, but thank you very much. I needed clarification on that. Sorry to interrupt you.
Thank you, Chairman. May I carry on? Yeah.
Yes, of course you can.
Yeah, basically what I was going to say, this is, whilst we all support the need for affordable housing, obviously, as what had been said previously, you know, this is not in the right space. You know, open green spaces, you know, a sacrosanct. You know that is the gateway into the town. It's is used by local people, and I actually disagree with the letter officer when they say it's you know, surplus to requirements. You know, I'd have to disagree there. There has been mentioned that East Court is only 200 metres away, but what people have to do to access that, and I will come on just to back that up, on the two, stage 1 traffic audits by the county council. One was out of date because of the it was out of date, because of it was done in 2014, and this had a shelf life of 5 years. But in that first report, what they're saying is, basically, I'll summarise this. This could result in further impacts on school safety, with additional congestion occurring in the vicinity of the school. The development, and this is important, will also result in an increased pedestrian crossing demands over the A264, with there being a direct route to the town centre via the pathways within East Court. The updated stage 1 audit, they say they've mitigated against that, and I wonder if the case officer could actually throw some light on what the mitigation levels are, because I'm seriously concerned about the increased pedestrian access across the A264. There doesn't seem to be any real safety measures there. I wonder if you could answer that question before I go on, please.
Mr. Watt, can you answer that question, please?
Yeah, sorry, that I don't have an answer to that, I'm afraid. It's just obviously the site does include the pedestrian access through the site onto that pedestrian access there. But really none of the traffic information submitted as part of this actually sort of raises a severe concern in that sense. So yeah, I can't really give any further response to that, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I'd also like to point members to policy DP 26 on page 160 and bullet points 3, 4, 5 and 6 actually go against these, as far as I'm concerned, go against this proposal. And also I'd like to bear in mind while we're at it is that if you look at the 2 previous outline applications and looking at the level of objections and the current one, you know, it was actually 56, 127 and 149. And I'm not saying actually they're all different, the same people that have actually objected. I looked on the portal and there are a lot of actual different objectors. So that is a huge number of objections for such a small development. That's, and I've just got one more point on drainage, Chairman, if I may continue.
Of course.
Bear with me just 1 second. Yeah, the site is within, this is from our drainage engineer, the site is within flood zone 1 and there's a low fluvial risk. The site is within an area identified as having possible high, medium and low surface water. The site also appears to provide a surface water flow route through the wider area of the site. So that's one point. Then we go on to the county council local flood authority, and they say the current surface water mapping shows that parts of the proposed site are at high risk from surface water flooding. And the area of the proposed development is shown to be at low risk from groundwater flooding, although based on current mapping, this site is based on model data only and should not be taken as meaning that the site will not suffer groundwater flooding. And also on that point is to know is that apparently, well, in the report, the fences in the back gardens are permeable and raised to allow water to flow under the gardens, which seems a bit strange to me, but I will leave it there, Chairman, and look forward to the other members' comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I ask the Councillor de Bell to make a comment, Andy, could you just reiterate what the drainage officer said about this site, please?
Yeah, I mean, there has been extensive negotiation during the course of this application in drainage terms as well, and a drainage report was submitted sort of during that period, which showed some attenuation tanks being provided in the centre of the site, just within just from the site entrance and in that communal car parking area to the south. And the finished floor levels of all the plots were designed to allow for sort of a surface water storm event flood path. So that was the mitigation measures put in place by the applicant, who obviously recognises that the site, particularly to the lower part of the site, sort of adjacent to the cemetery boundary, is more susceptible to surface water flooding. This has been assessed by the council's drainage engineer, and she considers that the site can, or this development scheme is acceptable, subject to a detailed drainage plan and a management and maintenance plan in future. Thank you.
And she's happy with that?
She is, yes.
So thank you. Right, Councillor de Bell, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. First of all, I'd like to say that I think this development is an excellent little development for somewhere else. I know this area very well. It's not far away from where I live. And I think the most pertinent fact that's been spoken has been by Councillor Mrs. Belsey. The traffic report, as confirmed by Mr. Watt, was done during the pandemic. Now, this road, the A264, is a main road into East Grinstead from the Tunbridge Wells area, and indeed a feed-in from Lingfield, and also a main road out of East Grinstead along the same road. Plus, RAT runs through to the back end, through College Road, through Blackwell Hollow, and indeed all of the traffic coming to a perfect storm area, which is the crossroads at the top of this road, and the roundabout that is in the middle of it. So here you've got, during normal weeks outside of the pandemic, you would have traffic streaming in both directions along this road, as you do, coming along College Road and hitting the roundabout there, a mass. And you've got then children being taken to Blackwell School, down that Blackwell Road. You've got children walking to school, to Sackville School, across that road junction and across through East Court and down that way. And I would beg to say that any increased traffic in this area is going to produce just further nightmares. So I think the most important and pertinent fact that's been spoken on this one has been by Councillor Mrs. Belsey concerning the traffic on this road. Any addition to this is, and I'm not persuaded that the traffic report has been done at a proper time. As Mr. Watts already confirmed, this has been redone at a time during the pandemic when there's hardly any traffic on the roads. So I would like to see the traffic report redone and the whole thing postponed until such time as normality returns and we actually see proper traffic on this road to be monitored and to see what's going to happen here. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor de Bell. Before I go to the next councillor, Mr. King, can you answer any of those questions, please?
Yeah, it's just a point, Chairman, about how matters relating to highway safety and capacity should be considered by the committee. The full comments of the Highway Authority are set out in the appendix to the committee report, so I won't go through them all. I'll just draw your attention to the bottom of page 196, where the Highway Authority confirm that they don't consider the proposal would have an unacceptable impact on highway safety or result in severe cumulative impacts on the operation of the highway network. Now, clearly, the information has been submitted, when it has during the pandemic. If the Highway Authority felt that the information before them was unacceptable because of that, then they would have said so. But they're very clear that they don't seek to resist the application. And I think when we talk about severe impacts elsewhere in East Grinstead, we've had similar issues raised regarding impacts on the highway, up at Fellbridge on the A264 and then the junction with the A22. And we've seen a number of planning permissions granted up there, some on appeal. And I think everyone would acknowledge that that is a busy road, that A264, A22 junction. You can have significant queues at peak times, but very recently, there's an appeal following a lengthy public inquiry last year, where the inspector found that there wasn't a severe impact on the highway network. The highway authorities had agreed that position, and Tandridge District Council lost an appeal there and had a substantial award of costs made against them. So I think we do need to be careful to give the appropriate weight to the highway authority, who are the statutory body responsible for the highway network within the district. I think that's all I want to say on that point, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. King. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Chairman. As someone who isn't able to drive but passes this spot fairly frequently on the way to the eye clinic, I'm very disappointed that there haven't been some improvements in the crossings there, because there is obviously going to be an increase, if this is approved, there will be an increase in volume of people crossing there to go to the playground and the facilities in Eastcourt. And while I believe from memory there is a zebra crossing there at the moment, I would have thought something a little safer, a little more secure would be desirable at that spot.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Councillor Phillips. Councillor Pulfer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I was reading the papers, it just so happened that Christopher Pincher, as the Minister of State for Housing, had written to the Times to say just how important it was that neighbourhood and town councils should be listened to at planning applications, and I would urge that that is done on this occasion. There's been a lot of conversation about the traffic survey, which I might suggest is a red herring. What actually we're looking at here is an area of open space, which, if nothing else, we now know is so important to everybody's well-being and health. And you've got a high density or relatively high density housing opposite, and to say that they can all go across Eastcourt, the children who'd have to be supervised, it's a very busy road, personally I think is totally unacceptable. And the other thing, Mr. Chairman, is I have never seen in any document so far 4 pages of reasons of objection. We've seen 2 or 3 lines, 4 pages of A4, Mr. Chairman, and I really do believe that we should be listening to the local people who live in the local area and understand what's going on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Pulfer. You've not been on this committee very long, unfortunately. If you experienced the life I had to experience with the PRC, they don't just 2-4 pages, it's a whole volume, thousands of people. They're very organised. Members, you've heard some quite impassioned comments from the members. However, you've got to take in consideration, and it has been proven, that if the Highways Authority does not agree with what you're saying, we would struggle in an appeal. And we've only ever gone against them once, and we were very, very lucky that the appeal was dropped before it got to appeal, because we would have got hammered. The principle of housing on this site has already been established, albeit with lesser extent now, as we found out. Secondly, the principle of the loss of green space, again, has been established, and Eastcourt is the biggest green space we have in the district. It is our sang. There's hundreds of acres up there. So be very careful if we wish to refuse this application, because I've got to have some very good planning reasons to refuse it, because we will get hammered otherwise in costs and lose an appeal. So yes, I've just had a comment in my ear from the officer, but it's very true what he just mentioned. Members, do not lose sight. We are getting 10 affordable housing. These aren't 1-bedroom flats. These are 2- and 3-bedroom houses. This is accommodation for families. This is not just for one bedroom flats, people starting off trying to get into the social housing ladder. These are established people who are waiting for bigger houses. That is the benefit that some people wish to throw this away. I am very, very aware that, is an emotive site. It is a very emotive site, as in any housing when we're going to build on green open space. But members, we've already established that principle. Across the road is the biggest green area in the district. And that is where you've got to go. And that's what swayed it last time. I'm not saying it's going to sway it this time, but that is what. So the recommendation is on page 147. Recommendation A, and I'll read it all out, is to recommend that, subject to the completion of a satisfactory 106 legal agreement and all legal undertaken to secure the required level of SAM and SAN contributions, infrastructure contributions, affordable housing provision and traffic regulation order, planning permission is granted subject to the conditions set out in Appendix A and in the update sheet that we received today. Recommendation B is if by the 21st of April of this year, the applicants have not submitted a satisfactory signed Section 106 legal agreement and all legal undertakings securing the necessary final contributions and affordable housing, then it is recommended that the planning permissions be refused at the discretion of the divisional leader for planning and economy for the following reasons. The application fails to comply with the district policies of DP 20 and DP 31 of Mid-Sussex District Plan and policies EG3, EG5, EG7 and EG11 of the East Grinstead Neighbourhood Plan and paragraphs 54 and 56 of the National Planning Policy Framework in respect to the infrastructure and affordable housing requirement to serve this development. Do we have a proposer for the permission? Councillor Coe-Gunner, all right. Do I have a seconder? Does any member wish to second the permission, recommended permission? Councillor Cartwright. Right, so can we ask for a vote, please, on that you're voting for permission for this?
Yeah, Councillor Allen.
For.
Sorry, you broke up there. Was that 4?
4.
Thank you. Councillor Cartwright.
4.
Councillor Coe-Gunner White.
4.
Councillor Coote.
4.
Councillor DeBell.
Against.
Councillor Eggleston.
4.
Chairman.
4.
Councillor Phillips.
Against.
Councillor Pulfer.
Against.
And Councillor Swedman.
Against.
So I make that 6-4 and 4 against. That's carried.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. This was a very, very difficult and very emotive planning application, and this has been granted. Thank you. I have no items for refusal and other matters, which is item 11, questions pursuant to Council Rule Procedure 10.2, due notice of which has been given. I have none. I close the meeting at 17:54. Can members remain in situ while the live streaming comes to an end?